Hello everyone. So we're outside, of course, something a little bit different. Um, this video is going to be really the first video that signifies a change from Odenword books to Odenword. And admittedly, I recorded 3 videos um, out in nature in the past handful of days or so, all about my relationship with nature and, if I'm being honest, my sort of struggle with going outdoors. And I found that they were quite negative videos, unfortunately. It's quite a serious topic for me. The thesis behind it was that if I'm being honest, I haven't been outside much at all in the past year and a half or so, 2 years. And my trips to nature are few and far between. I've decided not to put those videos up. However, I'm going to make a video just about nature in general, about going out to places, about heritage and aesthetics. Just sort of reflect on where I am, sort of my past and whatnot, and then hopefully open up some discussion about nature. Because as I said before, I do want to create videos that are not just about books, and actually that brings me on to one of the reasons I'm creating this video. I Obviously, if you've seen some of my creativity vlogs, you'll know that I'm unfortunately quite neurotic about creation and art and making things. Um, and I've decided to step back a little bit and not try and focus as much. I just have this real problem with I need to get work out there. Of course, I sound like a broken record, but it's quite important to me. But I've decided to just come out to nature as much as possible because it really got to the point where I wouldn't even go outside just to go for a 10 to 15 minute walk or whatever. I just needed to get work done. But it's actually not just that. It's this issue with not going outside much relates more to it's quite a layered issue. So it's things like philosophy, changes in belief, an unfortunate shift in interest from, not unfortunate, but so I'm more interested in the built environment in a couple of ways. I'm more interested in cultural, sort of the human achievements. I don't so much, I've changed from being fully outdoors and practicing wilderness skills and all sorts of stuff, and just my whole ethos and outlook was nature and sort of even the aesthetics of degradation and decay. And I studied carrion beetles for my dissertation, and that's it's, when I say these words, I'm remembering the 3 videos that I recorded, and I don't really want to go back into those. It's a lot to talk about, but suffice it to say, I'm trying to make a more concerted effort to go outside. Just try and remember the good things about nature, of course. Not that nature's bad, it's a complicated issue for me to go into, but just to get on a sort of surface level, just to get more outside exercise and just to breathe fresh air and whatnot. It's a good way of describing this, just to cap this sort of part of the video off. I spoke to Knight of Wands personally about religion. The Knight of Wands is a subscriber to the channel, and I speak about this to a variety of people as well. But I would get into big discussions, and one of the things that Knight of Wands said was that he struggles with talking about religion. Not that it made him uncomfortable, but it was such a big thing for him that he couldn't quite encapsulate it, couldn't quite put it into words. And for me, my relationship with nature is like that as well, so it's a very layered issue. Yeah, so it's gotten to the point where I need to make a concerted effort to go outside, even if it's just for a walk. So, I really just wanted to talk about where I am and where I've been, and sort of my past and what I think about nature and what I think about heritage and aesthetics, and hopefully just try and use it as sort of fuel, as kindling for discussions into nature and history and all sorts of stuff, mythology. So I find these are almost 2 different worlds from of course I write about nature and stuff, but I need to remember that I've done things like Tolkien memorized. I used to be outside and I used to just have this whole other sort of side of me that hasn't been expressed as much. And you'll be aware that if you've seen my About Me page, I've got a whole sort of background with nature and all sorts of stuff. I don't want to sound too self-indulgent here, of course. It's a sort of British sensibility thing where I don't really want to, I don't really think I'm important or whatever. I just want to get some ideas out there. So, yeah, so my relationship with nature really began, unfortunately, not so early on. It was really one of the impetuses I get for this video, actually. There's quite a lot of things I want to discuss here, but one of the impetuses for this video is I recently wrote an article for a peer-reviewed journal called The Ecological Citizen, and that was all about nature and my sort of journey to nature. And I have to be honest, I felt almost bad. I was writing in a sort of intellectual sense, but I felt bad that I had dwelt so much on nature in that article. And I knew personally, sort of within myself, that I had not been outside in a long time. My nature journey began with, of all things, as I say in this article, and as I say on my website, a video game called World of Warcraft, and that was based on that might sound strange, but I started with a character called a Night Elf, sort of nature-attuned, rustic character, and that the understanding and appreciating Azeroth, this world, the world of Warcraft, really sort of opened my eyes to nature in a way. And that was in tandem with that. I became more interested in history, the ancient history, and then specifically prehistory, and that's how I got into wilderness skills. And from there, I would say from about 2011 to 2013 was the main time period when I got into nature. This was still when I was living in Scotland at the time. I used to do the very first real impact or engagement I had with nature was I used to volunteer at a couple of nature reserves and country parks in Scotland. That was all new to me, and it was, especially with going to the Scottish Highlands, that was a whole other world. Just blew my mind away, really. So I was brought up in a very sort of natureless area. There's very few trees, just a small town on the coast. I had the beach, of course, but I wasn't very much interested in nature until I was about, unfortunately, like 15, 16, 17, maybe even 18. And I just remember going to various places, like the Trossachs National Park, Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park in these early days, which really weren't that long ago. But then I went to places like Glencoe with my twin and a friend, and just it all opened up from there. And I remember seeing Ray Mears, the survivalist and sort of woodland expert, as a wilderness skills expert, in Edinburgh for a talk that he did. And I had a brief sort of stint at a place called New Battle Abbey College. That was for a rural skills course. It was quite a low-level rural skills course. That didn't really go too well. It wasn't my thing. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. It wasn't really about ecology. And then after that, this was in late or mid 2013, and then in very late 2013, moved down to England. So just as I was getting interested in the Scottish Highlands and experiencing real sort of wild rustic nature, I moved down to England, very, very south of England, and it was a bit more tame. It was a bit, a lot of woodlands, of course. England is famous for its, obviously, its woodland cover and its rivers and whatnot. It's more pleasant than the sort of wild rusticness of Scotland. But really, moving to England was, although it didn't have Scotland's wild aesthetic, it opened up a place called Butser Ancient Farm for me in Hampshire, just maybe 30-40 minutes from where I lived at the time. This was in 2014. And that was a whole big thing. That's when I'll summarise it. Really, it was a kind of they called it an open-air laboratory for history and prehistory. It had a Roman villa, it had Mesolithic huts, I don't think it had the Saxon building when I was there, but it had a lot of, it was like going back in time. There was Iron Age roundhouses, that was the main thing. And I did all sorts of stuff there, from maintenance of the houses to the buildings to just chopping firewood and helping out just with volunteers and answering the questions and whatnot. I even did I built a Mesolithic logboat out of using fire. So we put fire on the top of it and we dug it out with antler picks and shells and whatnot. That was a big thing. It was called the Eurybia logboat, and we put it on a lake on a place called Petersfield Heath. It's a long time ago now, but it seems like a different world to me now, unfortunately. And there was a Beltane festival as well. You might be familiar with Beltane. I helped build like a 20-foot or higher huge wicker man. So that was interesting. So that was Butts Ancient Farm. And then I really started with a place called Sparshope College, and that was to do my 2-year diploma in countryside management. And then after that, it was degree in wildlife ecology and conservation. So you can see I was interested in nature, very much so, and all sorts of the scientific side of things. Being out in nature, doing wilderness skills and carving. I think in 2014, 2015 I was making spatulas and spoons and all sorts of stuff. And then obviously there's a scientific side of things, doing surveys, wildlife surveys, doing data analysis and all sorts of stuff with the degree. There's a whole other side of things as well. And I've always been interested in nature, but I found over the past couple of years or so, even the past few years, I've been more interested. I got back into history, and I got more, especially in the past year and a half, even past year, I've been very much more interested in the built environment and sort of cultural aspects, and going to places like British Museum, London National Art Gallery, even going to places like Rome and seeing St. Peter's Basilica. The less rustic side of things, the more sort of ascended, the more human and the artistic. And it's a false dichotomy. I know that for certain, because this is one of the things I talked about in the video. I went on about it for some time. This feeling that I can't, for some reason, enjoy both sides of things. Because I was always, my whole thing used to be, it still is, but my whole thing used to be non-anthropocentrism, to quite an extreme degree, to the point where I sort of viewed human achievement as being sort of laughable, and nature was the basis and the foundation of everything. And I still think that to some degree, but I really do, there's a whole topic to do with it. It goes as far as death, acceptance, and it goes so far into things like the aesthetics of decay and degradation, and I don't really want to get into it too much, to be honest, but I think for me, I just need to try and think of it as a whole. For example, last year I went to Wales to see some castles. That was great. Some ruined abbeys. I'm just interested in history and nature in all its forms. It's just that I think what it is. I was thinking back to this, especially with the recent videos. I think it's because I have this sort of one-track mindset, similar to the fact that, for example, I used to do painting, or not painting, but just drawing and just visual art. And nowadays, it's like a sunk cost fallacy. I feel like I can't go back to that because I'm a writer. That's my self-image, and that's just an example of where I have this sort of concrete. For me, it's not a wishy-washy thing. I seem to just go with one thing. It's all or nothing. Because I used to do all this wilderness skills. I used to be in the earth. I used to be experiencing nature on a very sort of visceral level and just doing all this stuff. And then more and more, I seem to have changed to just liking the urban environment more, almost. And I seem to have lost interest in just sort of nature for its own sake. I have to admit, it's an unfortunate feeling where, like for example, my holidays have been to Prague and Rome, not seeing nature, but seeing cathedrals and museums and all sorts of stuff, sculpture. And I think it's an unfortunate change in mindset where it's just because of the degree and because of just my sort of familiarity with nature, I've found it less interesting overall. It's just going out to more trees, to more hills, and I think honestly, I think if I'd stayed in Scotland, I might have been more interested in nature as a whole. But then that's no excuse really, because I could have went to Norway, but I chose Prague and Rome. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. It's just too much to get into, really. I'm just trying to go out more because for me, on a surface level, again, it's more to do with health. I think I've really not. I do have some problems that make it more difficult to go outside. So I really just need to try and get out more. And it definitely has helped the past handful of days, even just coming out here and just getting fresh air. Trying not to worry too much about writing. Another thing, I'm just thinking about things now. I think the scientific side of things kind of not ruined, but sort of dulled my appreciation of nature for a little bit. Just seeing trees not as trees, but as sort of tools with purposes. I was always interested in fantasy and nature, fantasy and myth and the artistic side of things. I never really considered myself to be interested in science, even though I did a science degree. But it goes along with my sort of change in belief, which I really won't go into in this video, but I'm trying to see nature as just as it is, almost like a painting, as opposed to some wood, some woody stems that have xylem and phloem and whatnot. So there's a lot to go into, and I realise this video is quite long as it is, and just thinking back to my last 3 videos that I'm not going to put up, that I won't be putting up, I feel like there's some things that I'm missing, but I just have to accept that because there's quite a lot to talk about here. I'm sure you can, it probably sounds like, probably get the impression that there is quite a lot to talk about, and there is. So hopefully you found this interesting. Tell me in the comments what your views of nature are, if you've been to various places, if you've been to nice places, pleasant places. For me, I have to admit, I've only been to, well, I've been to places in Scotland, been to quite a few places in England, Wales, and then really I've not been outside of the UK that much, if I'm being honest, as an adult anyway. I suppose I went to Prague, and I went to a castle there that had a nice nature walk in the hills. Rome, not so much in terms of nature, but yeah, I just need to just rekindle my sort of appreciation for nature. And one of the things I do write about nature quite a lot. I use it in my stories, but again, it makes me feel bad, because even if I just talk about trees in a story, I feel I haven't actually been outside a lot, and I don't know, there are a lot of things I could go into about why I've not been in nature as much, and some of them are quite negative, so I won't go into them. Although I feel like I need to, but I don't want to make it too personal and self-indulgent. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been the first video in the Olden Word, on the Olden Word channel, and this new rebranded, revamped sort of idea of what this channel is going to be. I'm planning to do, I might take this tripod that I'm recording on, might do a little walk somewhere, might go to a church, or might go to a ruin or something like that, just appreciate the past, just appreciate nature. So hopefully you enjoyed that. This has been Olden Word. This has been Taylor. Thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers. Till next time. So just a quick addendum to the video. Something more for peace of mind, really. Something I forgot to mention. I used to do ecology jobs, of course, and that was a way of engaging with nature and getting outdoors. I haven't done that for quite a long time now. Used to work in consultancy. Then I did another job which was quite close to where I lived, and didn't require as much driving. And driving was one of the reasons I stopped doing ecology. It's pretty ridiculous hours and distances. And the last job I had required, it was only about 34 minutes away, and it was just walking all day. The job was essentially walking, doing great crested newt surveys, and that was it was about a year and a half ago, maybe even more than that. Just not really found any ecology job since then. I've sort of moved away from that as well. It's just another example of moving away from nature. I just wanted to bring that up as well. Yeah, I imagine that if I had got an ecology job, I would still be outdoors and still be learning things about species and whatnot, and doing surveys and being active and outdoors. But it's not really been the case. Still interested in doing a nature-related job, but the driving was quite ridiculous. Anyway, so it's just a quick video, a quick addendum to the video. Till next time, thanks for watching. Cheers.